like cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum songwriter, platinum artist, Straight Game TV. I'm gonna get right into it. I was posed a question, and like I said, people been asking me questions, so I'm trying to pick from the best questions. And the question is, how come P. Diddy hasn't been arrested for what Keefe D had alleged about the $1 million bounty on Suge Knight and 2Pac hit, whatever you want to call it? And first of all, most people are reacting to situations and information that they're hearing. They're reacting with their feelings, and they're not reacting with the facts. So hopefully the facts that I'm going to give you today will help you deal with your feelings. You know what I mean? And understanding and gain some type of understanding from what I'm about to say. So, I understand that Keefe D signed a proffer agreement, and basically what a proffer agreement is an agreement where you give up testimony, and basically usually it's given for immunity or some kind of deal that they give you from the federal prosecutor. So that aside, okay, now, so the P. Diddy thing. So when you deal with Puffy, and like I said, I love 2Pac, friend of mine. Like I say, I sold 1 million records with him. But when I talk about this, I'm not going to talk about it in a biased manner, as if I want one side to be whatever. I'm going to be straight down the middle, and I'm going to give you the facts. I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't do it that way. So first and foremost, in asking that question, I ask a question back, you know, and you might want to chime in the comments. So if P. Diddy is arrested, who's your witness? What facts do you have, right? And most people would say, well, Keefe D said. Well, it's one thing to say something. It's another thing to prove what you said is actually true. We know most times that, you know, they can indict a ham sandwich, you know what I mean? And people, they use that term basically because they can indict you for anything. Doesn't have to even be true, doesn't have to be accurate, and so on and so forth. But under the Constitution, you have a right to confront your accuser. So let's say that they took the statement that Keefe D made and said, you know, and we seen the video murder rap and all of the things that he had said in there. And so with that, if you take what he's saying and you use that against Puffy, you got to say, well, okay, now Puffy, being who he is, the high power guy that he is, and having the money that he has, his money long, you know what I mean? He gonna hire the best lawyers. You best believe that. And, you know, so now if we taking that, so now Keefe D would then have to come and testify in court to what he's saying, you know, in regards to that. And then now, what other corroborating evidence other than his statement does he have to prove what he's saying is true? Remember, in murder rap, they basically sent Keefe D on one of those movies. They sent Keefe D to New York to talk to the guy Zip, but he was never able to get in touch with the guy Zip. So that part of the situation kind of fell flat, if you will. And so what other evidence other than the statement that he made in regards to that would they have to convict Puffy? And so once again, it ain't what you know, it's what you can prove, you know, or what you think you know, you know what I mean? And so, you know, on the flip side, you know, Puffy having, you know, probably would hire some of the best attorneys. You would then flip it, and he would be like, well, you know, now you say, well, the Puffy's lawyer, you know, he's basically gonna say, you can kind of guess what he would say. He would say, well, you were in the car, correct? So you are basically complicit in the murder of 2Pac Shakur, correct? You know what I mean? So why are you not in jail? Oh, so the government gave you a deal. Oh, so it just wouldn't go like you would think it should go. You know what I mean? And I think most people who understand the law and who understand the situation understand that. But a lot of people, like I say once again, are walking around, and I understand your feelings in about certain things, but the fact of the matter is that's what you would have to deal with in the court of law. There will be certain things you can and you can't do. There will be certain things that will be entered in, and there's certain things that won't be entered in because they will be considered hearsay. You know what I mean? So, and so it's a slippery slope when you got, long money and you got good lawyers who know the law, who understand the law and how to fight the law, you know what I mean? And fight for their client. And so with that, that's the reason why, you haven't the feds, the FBI, or what Las Vegas police, they haven't basically went after Puffy or nothing like that, because like I said, there's really no evidence. There's just statements. You know what I mean? And like I said, once again, you look at the credibility of any witnesses that come up, be it Keefe D or be it whoever, you know what I mean? You look at the credibility of him, and then they'll go over his history, you know what I mean? And everything. They're going to take you through the trove. They don't play no games, you know what I mean? The right defense attorney, he not going to play. He going to go. He going to, you know what I mean? Especially you getting paid, $100,000, $200,000 to defend your client. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why, you know what I mean? There's no evidence that says that, we understand what people are saying. And like I said, I don't doubt what Keefe D said. You know what I mean? I don't doubt anything that he said involving Woody, because like I said, he had to confess to his involvement and to other situations and things that he was involved in. That's his business. You know what I mean? He has to live with that. But at the end of the day, when you are implicating someone else, it's going to take more than just your statement and what you say happened, and like I said, and when you deal with the person's credibility and what their history is, you know what I mean? And so from that perspective, you have to deal with the facts. You can't just deal with your feelings and say, okay, well, I just think, I don't see why Puffy's still walking around and X, Y, and Z and so on and so forth. Yeah, I understand that. Those are your feelings, but the facts remain different. And like I said, I don't really know who did what in regards to that, whether, if Puffy did, put $1 million, bounty out on Suge and 2Pac. I really don't know, because I wasn't there. The only evidence, or not even say evidence, the only statement that we have in that realm is what we heard from Keefe D. And the first time I had heard it was through the movie Murder Rap. And so from that perspective, I think that's the thing that really matters. Like I said, once again, so that's the reason why, from the question that was asked me, that's the reason why the FBI or the Las Vegas PD haven't investigated Puffy, like I said, or even tried to question him, because he's not going to answer no questions. You know what I mean? My lawyer, talk to my lawyer, and that's what you do. Any smart defendant, somebody could say that you did something. You know what I mean? Anybody could say that, you watching this video. Yeah. He was the guy that, he gave me drugs and so on and so forth. You ain't got nothing to do with that. You work a 9 to 5. But he knew that if he told on the guys that really did give it to him, them guys, they don't really play. And they might go to his mama house, you know what I mean? And do something crazy, right? So he told on the guy who he knew was the weakest link, the guy who don't really do anything. He work a job because he wanted to get out of the trouble that he wanted to get out of. You understand what I'm saying? And so he said that you did it. You ain't got nothing to do with that. They can come lock you up and take you through the motions. You know what I mean? And the reason why sometimes they do that, because they know your money ain't long enough. You can't hire the best attorney. You can't hire a good defense. And that's the thing about when you deal with, African American males and us in the justice system. That's a lot of time what happens is because they know you don't have the money to have a good defense. And you would need a public defender who in turn works in the same building as the prosecutor, and they have lunch. So what do you think, Jim? You think he's guilty? Off the record. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So like I said, that's the reason why nothing has really happened involving Puffy. Like I said, those are the facts, not my feelings or nothing like that. Like I said, I don't really get into that emotionalism about what I think about, what should be happening with either party. Like I said, Keefe D did what he felt like he needed to do in order to what was best for him at that particular time. Whether I agree with it or not, it's his business. And Puffy living his life and so on and so forth. I'm living my life and you living your life. And like I said, at the end of the day, that's the reason why. Straight game.